everyone, and welcome to Clarissa Moon Talks to the Stars Fringe Edition! My next guest went from the boardroom to the stage performing Tomatoes Tried to Kill Me, but Banjos Saved My Life at Fringe festivals all across the US and Canada. Please welcome Keith Alessi. Your show has a very interesting title. Why don't you explain what your show's about?
Well, the title is both literal and metaphorical. I was a well-known public company CEO who had spent a lifetime accumulating a banjo collection but never learned to play them. And I finally got to a point where I decided I was going to learn how to play them, quit the corporate world, and 2 weeks later got a deadly cancer diagnosis caused by tomatoes. So the tomatoes literally tried to kill me. I threw myself during my recovery into learning how to play the banjo, and they literally saved my life. But there's metaphors that go along with it too.
So what attracted you to the banjo?
The Beverly Hillbillies. As a kid, it's interesting, Tony Trischka, who's a fabulous banjo player, Bella Fleck, even Steve Martin, have all attributed their interest in the banjo to the Ballad of Jed Clampett, which in the 60s, of course, was a big deal. And there was something about the banjo that drew me in. I grew up in a big city. There's no reason I should have. I was listening to Motown music.
And what attracted you to performing?
Well, I spent several months in treatments recovering from esophageal cancer, and spent 2 entire weeks in an intensive care unit. And I'd lived a very large life. I was retired at 43. I was well known as front page of the Wall Street Journal. I'd checked off all the bucket list items. And I was sitting in an ICU, and I made a couple promises to myself. And one of them was I was going to learn to play that banjo. And I was going to do it in public. And what better place to do it than a Fringe? And the Fringe, in a non-judgmental way, gave my voice a chance to be heard from the stage. And that's not something I probably could have accomplished anywhere else.
You said in an email that you can testify to the healing power of the arts. And what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, the metaphor that goes with the tomatoes, I grew up in an Italian immigrant household with an abusive father. And as a result, I grew very tall emotional walls around myself. In my recovery, I started playing old-time music with a community of musicians in Southwest Virginia. And it was there that I really made the breakthroughs, not just musically, but emotionally. It was the first place I really was able to let down those barriers. And, you know, probably the most interesting thing to me, I've probably had more hugs and more tears in the last year than any year of my life. I put up a show in Chicago before we entered the Toronto Fringe last year. It was in front of family and friends. And a friend of mine had sent his daughter, and she brought some kids from the dorms at the University of Chicago, and there was 2 young men sitting in the front row. And they were crying the entire performance. And after the performance, they came up to me, and I said, well, you know, what's going on? They said, well, we lost our dad to brain cancer 2 years ago. He was a banjo player. We haven't heard a banjo in 2 years. And your energy is his energy. So now they're crying uncontrollably. I'm crying uncontrollably. We're all having this big group hug. It's been that way every night since.
Wow.
There has not been a show somebody doesn't come up to me with a story of survival. And it's not just about cancer. I had a guy who's 62 years old come up and say, I've had a guitar in my closet for 20 years. I didn't think I'd ever learn how to play it. I'm going to take it out. So it's the personal connections that I've found on the stage. You know, if I did a good job in the business world, I had a bunch of hedge funds in New York and make a bunch of money. I taught college. Those kids were going to do all right. They were already at good schools. But this experience, I'm having a level of personal connection that I never experienced in either of those other 2 worlds. So it helped heal me, and now the gift I can give back is helping others.
It's amazing. And speaking of helping others, you donate your gate to charity.
Yeah.
Which charity?
It depends where we're at. Here we're donating it back to the venue, the Breakthrough Theater. We did a show in Virginia a month ago where we raised money for kids' pediatric cancer. I actually was honored to have been at the Mott Cancer Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which was my alma mater, and I jammed with a bunch of pediatric cancer patients. They were playing ukuleles, I was playing my banjo, and half those kids weren't going to make it a year. It was pretty moving, you know. So I spent my life with a lot of activity. This show's really given me purpose, and it's coming back to me. You know, the more I give, the more it's coming back to me. So, you know, I'm in a different place than most Fringe performers, so this is not an economic pursuit for me, but it is a way for me to, you know, pay it forward.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Alessi.